Good morning, Mr. David Boab. Just wanted to ask you about your views on how important it is to preserve the history of Z Ward here at Glenside.
I think it's vitally important. This building was promised by the government as a medical museum back in the 1980s. As I've said in other circumstances, when the State Bank fiasco happened, they basically withdrew some promises, but we still had an undertaking from consecutive governments to consider the proposal. But in the last 7 or 8 years, particularly since it's been empty in 2003, they have wanted someone to buy it who could relieve any possible burden, and we couldn't convince History SA to take over control of the building.
Yeah.
They weren't prepared to have another building that was seen as a liability, as all museums are, because almost none of them make any profit.
So I noticed that you're feeling a little emotional about being here. It's affected you today. Why was that?
It's absolutely horrific. As children, we used to call this place the loony bin, and which is appalling, and it had a huge wall all around it, and it had broken glass on the top. And then I'd read about this place and came, and I've just got goosebumps. It's just awful.
It is, isn't it?
People were treated so barbarically.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Prisoners was here. I was for a friend of mine here, because I worked at Hillcrest all those years ago. But what actually happened was that the prisoner, and of course those days they didn't have drugs or anything like that, and he was in a straitjacket, and he kept on bashing the door, and he actually bent the door. So what they ended up doing, repaired the door by still putting these steel bars across it. I'm pretty sure it's on the second floor by memory. And what ended up happening was he actually bent the whole door again. So it's up there.
Any idea why he was here?
No, I wouldn't have a clue.
Do you think it's important to preserve heritage sites like this?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think you can get good tourism out of it. A lot of people would be interested.
So the only story I have is from a former colleague who I know who came here as a student social worker back in the early 1970s. And she told me that the place was pretty horrific, and patients would often get hosed down with fire hoses, and it was a very gruesome place to be living in.
So what have you got there? You've got a letter from a patient.
I have, when my father passed away, he nursed here in the 50s and early 60s, and I have a letter from the patients that was addressed to my mother way back then.
Wow.
So
Would you mind reading a little bit for us?
She said, thank you for your letter. Please do not worry about the duty. Oh, I really can't read it very well, to be honest.
All right.
So I don't know.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. I'll just try it. It says,
sorry,
thank you for your letter. Please do not worry about the delay in your reply to our letter. We quite understand. In fact, we did not really expect a letter in reply.
Oh, they must have said
It is very nice to hear that that our letter of sympathy brought you and the girls some small amount of comfort in your sorrow. It makes us all very glad. We sent it to you. Eric will not be forgotten for a long time here. He was the type of mate that one does not forget in a hurry. I hope that you are keeping well and that your girls are well. Best wishes. God bless.
Thank you.
It's lovely to meet Dr. Margaret Faraday today, and she was a doctor who worked here at Zedward. What can you tell us about working here?
I worked here only as a small part of my training. Dr. Lothar Hoff, the superintendent, was in charge of the place, but he always had one of we trainees, psychiatric trainees, as his house surgeon. And so I came here irregularly, perhaps to do people's drug charts or whatever. Once I had to admit a patient when he was away. And he came back on the Monday morning and I rang him up and I said, Lothar, we have a political prisoner here. And he said, have you told anybody? I said, no. He said, well, let's keep it under our hat till we go up and see the man together at 11 o'clock. So we came up here together and as I remember it, you rang a bell outside on the wall and the gate was opened and then you walked across and you had to ring another bell. And I presume this was the room where the guards were, or should we say the nursing staff were, and they had cupboards all on here, and I got the impression at different times that they had been drinking and would put their alcohol away because they would have a chance. You had to get through two gates, he said, to get here. Anyway, we came up here, and we then went round to the right here, down a little way to a room where this man was. So we went in and we interviewed him. I said nothing, or very little. Lothar was very good. He was an advanced psychiatrist, and he asked the man all sorts of questions, and gradually the man got heated up and steamed up. And this man had hit somebody or got into a fight at a bus stop and had been arrested. Anyhow, he gradually got worked up and eventually the man jumped up on the end of the bed, started yelling and screaming, and in the end Lothar said, who are you? He said, I'm the King of Heaven! And he screamed, and Lothar said, do you think we should have him in here, Dr. Faraday? I said, I think for the time being so.
Thank you for coming down and supporting us today, visiting Zedward.
No problems.
Why is it important for you to be here today and have a look around inside?
Well, it's going to be the last chance of ever getting to see inside of it, so it'd be nice just to at least get a look once before they demolish the inside and turn it into office buildings and stuff like that.
Yeah. Were you aware of the history of what actually happened here?
A little bit of it, not a lot.
Yeah. So, what are you expecting to see inside today?
From what I've heard, it's a lot like the old Adelaide Jail on the inside, so that's what I'm sort of expecting to see. A lot of cell-style doors and cell-style rooms, so...
Yeah, thanks for your support today. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
How do you feel about the preservation of Zedward and sites like this?
I think it's really, really important that sites like Zedward are preserved. I think just the amount of people here already. This morning we arrived at 8:45 and the line was sort of 100, 150 long, shows the public interest in it. I think that it's important that we have an understanding of history, particularly mental health history, and that we learn from maybe some mistakes made in the past. And I think if a site like this could be preserved and used as a museum or something else that was available to the public, that would be a really important thing to be done.